let's continue with progressive hippie, newly found hippie that all we need is love, Cory Booker. His support of the anti-BDS movement could coincide with the significant financial support he receives from pro-Israel groups. In 2014, his largest overall contributor was NORPAC, which donated $158,871, much of it earmarked for Booker by individuals giving to the PAC. NORPAC states its mission as to support congressional members who demonstrate a genuine commitment to the strength, security, and survival of Israel. One of the issues they mention on the group's site is opposition to BDS. Also, in his last Senate race, he received money from 8 other pro-Israel PACs, totaling $36,527. So I'm sure that's why. He is against, or for, against the anti-BDS movement. It must be. It must be. So Booker has been a powerful fundraiser in his time in the Senate. Since 2013, he raised more than $25.9 million. In the 2018 cycle, a cycle in which he was not running, Booker's campaign brought in more than $8.3 million in total. $8.3 million in the 2018 cycle. And he wasn't even running. An issue that may arise in the 2020 Democratic primary is the close relationship between the pharmaceutical industry and Cory Booker. New Jersey hosts the headquarters of many major pharmaceutical companies, and they have long had good relations with the New Jersey delegations. Booker said in 2017 that he would, quote, put a pause on accepting money from the industry. This was after he received heavy criticism for helping kill a bill sponsored by Sanders to lower drug prices. In 2016, pharmaceutical PACs gave $50,500 to Booker. Becton, Dickinson & Co., Bristol Myers, Squibb, and Sanofi PACs all contributed $5,000 each in 2016. Before that, in 2014, a cycle he was actually running in, Booker's campaign took in $161,000 in pharmaceutical PAC money. Pfizer contributed $17,500. Merck & Company gave $12,500, and several more gave $10,000 each. And I'm sure this had nothing to do with Cory Booker joining Senate Republicans to kill a measure to import cheaper medicine from Canada. Couldn't be! Couldn't be! It cannot have anything to do with. Jordan, are you saying these people are corrupt? Are you saying that these people like Cory Booker vote in favor of donors rather than the people they represent? I mean, you know the story by now. Bernie Sanders introduced a very simple symbolic amendment Wednesday night, urging the federal government to allow Americans to purchase pharmaceutical drugs from Canada, where they are considerably cheaper. Such unrestricted drug importation is currently prohibited by law. The policy has widespread support among Americans. One Kaiser poll taken in 2015 found that 72% of Americans are in favor of allowing for importation. President-elect Donald Trump also campaigned on a promise to allow for importation. The Senate voted down the amendment 52-46, with 2 senators not voting. Usually the vote was not purely along party lines. Unusually the vote was not purely along party lines. 13 Republicans joined Sanders and a majority of Democrats in supporting the amendment, while 13 Democrats and a majority of Republicans opposed it. One of those Democrats in New Jersey was New Jersey's Cory Booker, who is considered a rising star. In a statement to the media after the vote, Booker's office said he supports the importation of prescription drugs, but that any plan to allow the importation of prescription medications should also include consumer protections that ensure foreign drugs meet American standards. So let me fill you in on a little bit of the secret. Let me fill you in. You know how Republican politicians basically are walking press releases for the fossil fuel industry, and Republican politicians and Republican media figures basically echo the fossil fuel industry's talking points. So like, pipelines are safer than trains to transport oil and all this nonsense. The main talking point of the pharmaceutical industry on why we should not import cheaper medicine from countries like Canada is it's not safe and we need to ensure that the medicine has the proper oversight and review before we import. We could be importing these cheaper drugs that are not tested and not safe for American consumers. By the way, a lot of these Canadian drugs this is how sick the American system is. A lot of these Canadian drugs that Bernie Sanders was talking about importing into America for cheaper, guess where they're actually manufactured? These Canadian drugs. That Cory Booker's saying, well, we got to be careful. Can't just willy-nilly have Canadian drugs flowing into the United States without severe regulation. Guess where they're manufactured? A lot of these drugs are manufactured in America and then sent to Canada, where their citizens, Canadian citizens, enjoy the medicine, and us to get our own medicine that we manufactured here, we can't get it. And Cory Booker supports that system. Is that what he's talking about, love and unity? Is he talking about love and unity with our Canadian brothers and sisters? I mean, it's so corrupt, and it's so fraudulent. He's so fraudulent. And, you know, I think the media, it's already been shown who they're in love with Kamala Harris. But, you know, you're going to see them buying into this message of love and unity. And, you know, that's a great contrast to Donald Trump. And none of them, no one on CNN, no one in the New York Times, nobody at like BuzzFeed or any of these places, none of them are actually going to look into his record. Not one. And by the way, I don't know Cory Booker. He might be a very nice guy. So I don't really care about him personally. But on policy, I mean, this guy is a fraud. I mean, there's no other way to say it. He's a fraud. But we don't have media that points that out. He is a fraud. Throughout his Senate career, PAC contributions have played a major part in his fundraising. Since 2013, Booker's campaign has been given more than $2 million in PAC funds, particularly from business PACs, which make up almost 76% of PAC contributions in his career. In the 2018 cycle, PACs from the communications and electronics sector led the way with $49,500 in contributions. One communications industry PAC was T-Mobile USA, which gave Booker's campaign $6,000 in 2018. T-Mobile has been pursuing a merger with Sprint, which Booker expressed concerns over. The finance, insurance, and real estate industry PACs have also been a major Booker supporter, taking the #1 industry PAC spot in 2014 and ranking second in 2018. In 2018, his campaign received a combined $40,500 from that sector. So are you beginning to sense a pattern here, folks? Am I being mean? Is this, as the folks on Twitter say, a personal attack against Cory Booker? Am I just being mean to Senator Booker? Or is he a public servant that if he's going to run for president, well, his record is fair game? And I just want to show you the baloney that's being fed. I mean, this is what I was getting on Twitter today when I pointed a lot of these things out that I'm talking to you about now. So apparently, here's a fact. Booker represents an area of the country where a lot of people that work for banks live. He didn't get millions in donations from banks. He got millions in donations from people that work at banks, including secretaries and janitors. This is misleading BS. Yeah, you know, the $3 million, almost $3 million in donations he got from employees. He's right. It's not from the companies. It's from individuals working for the companies. I'm sure that the $3 million, almost $3 million he's gotten from Wall Street, it must have come from the secretaries, the janitors, you know, the people in charge of office supplies, you know, cleaning the bathroom. And I'm not knocking secretaries and janitors. They have a hard job and they do good work. But, you know, it must be that he's made almost $3 million in 5 years from janitors working at Goldman Sachs. And, you know, generally speaking, when I see a Twitter account with "I love Nancy Pelosi" on top of it, I have to question their motives. I have to question their motives. I mean, this is the ridiculousness. And you hear this argument. You hear this argument from these idiots on Twitter. I don't know if they work for David Brock's Correct the Record or if they're just stupid. But saying, Jordan, you're being dishonest. It's not the companies themselves donating to the candidate. It's people who work for the companies. What? Well, do you think it's like the low-level worker bees at Goldman Sachs that are donating to Cory Booker? You think it's the janitors? You think it's the low-level employees at these pharmaceutical companies that are donating to Cory Booker? You think it was the low-level workers for Time Warner, which, as I reported last week, Time Warner, the former parent company of CNN, it was CNN's parent company until last year. You think it was the low-level employees at Time Warner that were donating to Kamala Harris's campaign? Because Time Warner, workers who work for Time Warner, is Kamala Harris's top donor in her 2 years Senate campaign. Maybe Cory Booker's campaign slogan should be make janitors great again. It's unbelievable. And, you're not going to see this in corporate media, so let me just tell you some people that are attached to Cory Booker. I know I'm being mean. So this is from the New York Times. Well, perhaps no potential Democratic candidate counts more billionaire potential financiers as friends or allies than Mr. Booker, who attended Stanford and wooed investment from Silicon Valley when he was Newark mayor, including a $100 million donation for schools from Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. Well, we know Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook is doing wonderful things for America nowadays, like stealing your data, giving out your private information, and all that. When Mr. Booker helped open a startup years ago, investors included Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn. He also had close ties to the family of Donald Sussman, one of the party's most generous givers. Mr. Booker officiated the wedding of one of Mr. Sussman's daughters. Another hosted a fundraiser for him at her Hamptons home last summer. Maybe Kamala Harris was there, because we know Kamala Harris likes to go to the Hamptons to meet with Hillary Clinton's top donors. So, who is Donald Sussman, who, is very, very close with Cory Booker? Just a hedge fund manager that gave Hillary Clinton $21 million. Excuse me, let's be accurate. Gave Hillary Clinton super PAC $21 million. And, what's so interesting about Donald Sussman is his own cognitive dissonance. So this is from the Washington Post. Are you ready? Again, Donald Sussman, friend of Cory Booker. Florida-based investor said he has contributed $40 million to Democratic super PACs and allied groups in 2016, double what he planned to spend at the beginning of the election. He said he was driven by the desire, quote, to leave my children a better country by helping elect a candidate who will restructure a system that allows such huge donations in the wake of the Supreme Court Citizens United decision. Quote, it's very odd to be giving millions when your objective is to actually get money out of politics, he said. I'm a very strong supporter of publicly financed campaigns, and I think the only way to accomplish that is to get someone like Secretary Clinton, who is committed to cleaning up the unfortunate disaster created by the activist court in Citizens United. The founder of the Paloma Fund, which is a hedge fund, Sussman has helped raise money for the Clintons since the 1990s, insisted he's not looking to get any personal benefits from his contributions. Well, sorry to tell you, Donald, but exposed. 3 of Hillary's mega donors are in the Panama Papers, another tied to $6.8 billion in tax avoidance scheme. And guess who one of those are? Can you take a guess who one of these people in the Panama Papers are? Say it with me now. Cory Booker's friend, Donald Sussman. Employees of hedge fund Paloma Partners have donated $4 million to Hillary Clinton super PAC, Priorities USA. At least $2.5 million of that came in 2 checks written in 2015 by Donald Sussman, the founder of the hedge fund. Sussman also gave $343,000 to the Hillary Victory Fund. That money laundering scheme between the DNC, Hillary's campaign, and state DNC parties. Sussman and Paloma Partners turn up in the ICIJ, which is a journalist foundation, offshore database from a document leak in 2013. Both he and his hedge funds are shown as connected to a company called Simply Radiant Limited, which was registered in the British Virgin Islands with an agent called Portcullis Trustnet. Oh, so what does that mean, folks? That's called offshore tax havens. So this man who's, he's just donating out of the kindness of his heart to stop the toxic effects, the toxic impact of money in politics. That's just what Cory Booker's friend, Donald Sussman, who apparently Cory Booker was at his daughter's wedding or something like that. That's why he's doing it. That's why he's donating $20 million to Hillary Clinton's super PAC. It must be because he just wants to be taxed more. He wants to be taxed more. He wants tighter regulation on his hedge funds. He wants the carried interest loop to be closed. That carried interest loop created just for fun, just for hedge funds. So, it's so interesting that Cory Booker, one of his top friends and top donors, is in the Panama Papers for offshore tax havens in the British Virgin Islands. So, am I being unfair? Well, it's not technically Cory Booker, doing the offshore tax havens, but it certainly is one of his donors. Is that who he's talking about with the love and unity? It must be. It must be. And then you have his latest gem. Voting for Donald Trump's $717 billion military budget. Yep, Cory Booker. Voting for an unprecedented, crazy military budget. Right there. That's Cory Booker. Yep, Cory Booker loves him some war, loves some U.S. foreign intervention, because he's in bed with all these people. People on Wall Street love war and military intervention. Big Pharma doesn't mind war. Boeing and all them certainly don't mind war. So, I can't take it anymore when you point these things out, which, by the way, as humbly as I could say it, I don't think you're going to get this information you're definitely not going to get this from corporate media. And frankly, I don't think you're going to get this from most independent media outlets, because frankly, a lot of these outlets don't do their research, or do their research, but kind of ignore the worst of it. So Cory Booker, he might be a charismatic guy. He might be somebody that inspires the masses for love and unity and all this stuff, but not exactly somebody who has ties to the working class. Not exactly somebody who has ties to the disappearing middle class. And when his supporters say, well, you don't have proof. You don't have proof that he votes a certain way because of his donors. So what's wrong if individuals who work in the big pharmaceutical industries donate to him? He comes from a state that has a lot of pharmaceutical employees. Well, do you want to help the pharmaceutical industry in New Jersey, or do you want to help the people overall that you represent in New Jersey be able to buy drugs at a cheaper price? What are your priorities? The specific industry that's price gouging drugs, that is pricing people out in many cases of life-saving drugs? Is that your priority? To basically vote for things that will enrich their wallets? Not, by the way, he's not voting for it to enrich the worker bees, the average workers that work at these companies. He's voting for these things to keep the money flowing to the top of these big pharmaceutical companies. It's not trickling down to the worker bees at these pharmaceutical companies.